minutes, and then we'll seek approval for the agenda and seek approval for board meeting minutes for March 13, 2018. We have one presentation scheduled, and it's the National Service Recognition Day of Proclamation.
Yeah.
And Whitney's not going to do that, though, is she?
No, she just added to the agenda.
Yeah.
So I will introduce the subject.
Yeah.
And just have Commissioner Hutchins read the proclamation.
But is someone coming to receive it?
I am not sure that somebody's coming to receive this. But let me double check.
Okay. Look it up. Do you have a copy of it, though? Okay.
It doesn't appear to be.
So you have a pre-copy?
Let me see.
Sure. So after the presentations, the item number 1 is the opportunity for the public to address the board, and I'll just ask if anybody knows of anything.
It's been 2 weeks since we've had a board meeting, so
Yeah.
that will be an interesting.
I'm sure.
We'll receive some testimony.
I've invited some people to come when I meet them, but they tend to get scared about the camera when I mention they're going to be on camera. But okay, Sarah. So then other item is county manager's update, and so you have a follow-up on citizens issue.
I don't have any outstanding items to follow up, so I don't have a report this afternoon.
No, okay. Okie dokie. So we'll move right into consent items A through H, or Alpha through Hotel, which is the first one is the appointment of Paul Thompson to the Noxious Weed Board.
Yeah, so all those items, this is the first time you're going to be receiving review on those items, since this is the first time that we have the opportunity to discuss this for this afternoon. So hopefully we can address all your questions. If there's any questions that you may have on any of the items of the agenda, we can certainly move them to next week if I don't have the answers, or we need to follow up with any additional information. So item 3A, you reviewed this item in the past, and you agreed to appoint Mr. Paul Thompson for District 3 to the Thurston County Noxious Weed Control Board. As you may recall, District 3 is not necessarily aligned or associated with this particular commissioner's district. The Noxious Weed Board has 5 different districts, and so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
If you decide to appoint Mr. Thompson, his appointment will last until October 31st, 2019. I don't like this being on my face.
Is there any issue with Paul Thompson doing it?
How did we find him? Or how did he
Hello.
find us?
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Is he Paul Thompson from down in the valley?
Mm-hmm.
The Thompson family?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's for your consideration.
He applied himself.
I believe so.
Marcy's email
Through the ag
gives some
folks.
background. Or her AIS gives some background.
What is that? Whitney, say again?
Marcy's AIS gives some background.
Oh.
And T. Wilson is here to answer any questions you may have. He is the manager for the WID division. So, Tim, you want to come in?
Sure.
I don't have any questions. You have any
You did
questions?
very well in a long time, by the way, I might add.
Thank you. I was coveting your coffee.
So,
I was coveting your coffee.
Oh.
You had your coffee.
He has questions about the...
just how we found him or how he found us, and I don't know the name.
Via outreach with the Conservation District, they have staff that does extensive outreach to the ag community, and because 4 out of the 5 weed board members need to be actively involved in agriculture, we utilize them for outreach, and Paul applied after hearing about the position. I have not met Mr. Thompson, but staff
Me
tells
too.
me
I know him very well.
he's a convert. He used to have weed issues years ago, and has drank the Kool-Aid, so he's a big supporter of the program.
So he's a farmer then, he's a County farming manager.
Big farmer, yes.
Okay,
Oh, big time.
okay.
He's with
I'm not saying that for sure. No.
All right.
So you guys are okay?
Oh, God, yeah.
Would you like to keep this item?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure. No.
Item B is resolution reclassifying
So we will have,
stormwater.
this item, a couple of items from the Community Plan and Economic Development Department, as well as the next week's, we'll have another item. And this is just an effort of Josh's, and his new leadership to start aligning some of the positions and how better utilize the different resources associated with the workload that he currently has in his division. So this particular request is to reclassify a vacant civil engineer 1 position to a senior civil engineer, and that is located on the water resources division. This particular action will have
We're there, but look at that one.
will have an impact of going from $7,524 a month to $8,260 a month, which is just about a 9.8 increase, or $736 a month. And the impact will be covered by the stormwater utility. No impact with the general fund.
All righty.
Tried to cover all the bases.
You did well.
Okay, any questions on B?
Nope.
B, good. C is sheriff's resolution establishing temporary positions.
Yeah, this is an item that you have discussed on a couple of occasions, as well as you heard from, at least from the undersheriff, as well as Chief Purcell, on a couple of occasions as to the need for those positions. I may have to, okay, let me see. Suggest that this particular action does not create a temporary positions. Those particular actions that you may consider will create a full-time positions. Through the conversations, the Sheriff's Office is planning to cover under the current budget allocation the impact of the creation of those 2 positions in 2018. In 2019, that may not be the case, and those positions may be probably an impact to the general fund, and we are throwing in $400,000 or so. And that is the information that I have provided you in the past. It's not just about you considering taking an action in dealing with the impacts of 2018, but again, the Sheriff's Office is planning to take care of that, but also you're committing to find those positions in long term beginning in 2019.
Yeah. Then why don't we take the word temporary out? Because
That's,
very misleading.
I'm going to suggest that they will take the word
That was my
temporary out.
thing. Yeah.
Well, we can take it out right now.
I already did.
Well, I meant strike it from the thing when we go to, yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So there, when you consider these 2 positions in 2019, might be some options available to you, so that you might be able to find those. And that might be part of your discussion. Initial conversations this Thursday on your planning session, where we have a lot of, at least 3-4 hours to talk about all about budget.
Oh. Okay. Any questions, comments on?
Do we or can we put a caveat in on this particular item that says providing funding stays the same or something like that? I mean, I'd hate to think that the crab board would jerk some money away from us or something, and we'd be locked in on something. And I know I've got the sheriff working on some of that crab board issue stuff. So
Help me understand what you like to see in this action.
I just don't know if we would we be able to continue funding for these positions if anything changed in our current budget, and I'm specifically referring to the potential crab funding
That would be your
reduction.
choice if you wanted to spend out of fund balance. The sheriff is proposing that they would absorb these costs this year.
But next year it becomes,
And the years after.
and the years after it becomes,
So in future years,
Permanent.
it's up to you what you'd like to fund. You could fund this, and if your revenue goes down, you could choose to cut this or something else.
Yeah, it's no different than any other.
we're not locked in any more on these 2 positions than we are on any other positions.
correct.
Okay,
And these 2 positions are not necessarily related to the crowdfunding. They have no relation to
Okay.
Any particular action. That
Just 2 FTE positions.
There's 2 FTEs, and that is in front of you. And again, for me, it's just to bring you all that information in front of you. Again, 2018 quiz has been completed by the sheriff's office in cost. The creation of those 2 positions, but in 2019, then you will be assessing as to how you would like to fund.
But
And there might be some options for you as well.
Will the sheriff or undersheriff be here to present this, or is this?
It's
we're
consent
just-
item.
we're just-
It's a consent
to
item.
it?
Usually, personnel actions are not part of a department item.
Okay, and the only reason I ask is I'm trying to go back to thinking, when we discuss these positions, that this does not obviously bring the sheriff's office to full staffing, but it's pretty much replacing people retiring too.
No, those are 2 additional
Yeah.
positions.
Additional, right.
Additional positions.
They're
This,
additional, funded, I get that, but with people leaving or retiring, he's still way below the water level.
Oh, it's way below.
Well, it's
Well,
like 10,
and-
12 down. You got a long ways to go.
yeah, and that is, I think what you're referring, Commissioner, is the attrition levels.
Right.
There is always going to be an attrition percentage on the office, not just on the road deputies, but as well as the correction officers. And adding new positions also provides a challenge for the sheriff's office to hire new deputies. So that will continue to be an issue because the selection process is very process-driven and takes a long time for a deputy to come and start performing the duties.
Right, it's not hiring entry level,
No.
anything else. I understand that. It's the appearance the public has, oh, the sheriff got 2 more, 2 more bodies, 2 more positions. It's a big hit. How many more bodies are they gonna have? But I just wanted them to realize, the public, he's still operating way down here under sea level.
Yeah,
In terms of staffing levels.
if
There's
I may-
that attrition piece
Yeah,
to it
yeah.
as well.
If I may go back to Commissioner Blake's comment, perhaps the initial request is for 12 additional deputies in the long term. Even if you take an action to create 12 new positions,
Yeah,
there's still going to be an issue for the sheriff's office to hire all those individuals.
it's a year.
So, and I think you're making an excellent point, is one thing is just creating the positions, giving the ability to fill those positions, but the other is how quickly they can hire those.
Right.
And so the warm bodies is the one, are continue to be an issue.
And I understand he's got a couple of warm bodies on the hook right now,
Yeah.
or fish on the line.
Would be lateral transfers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So also, I may remind you that also in 2017, on the first quarter budget amendment, you did create 2 additional road deputies.
Now we're
So,
at 4.
in the last 2 years that you have in office, this commission has created a total of 4 new deputies, if you choose to take this action this afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
That's
I'm
great.
good.
I see it well.
Okay, good.
Got,
All right, here we go. Let's take out the word.
No, I just want to make that a statement for the public to understand that you have been proactive in addressing the needs of the sheriff's office.
Thank you, sir.
All righty. Item D.
Item D, and again, is related to item B, as Josh is looking at his department as to how he better align some of the current staffing levels in association with the current workload. This particular request for your consideration is to reclassify the project coordinator position, meaning they have an associate planner position, into a project coordinator. So the associate planner, what it does is really does the work, and you have approved a lot of code amendments that is in the works, a lot of work that is going on in his office. By adding, reclassifying one of the positions to a project coordinator allows this person to start managing those projects at a higher level, start managing the work as a whole, as opposed to just specific individuals at any given point. This particular action will increase the salary from $6,524 to $6,839. That's just a 5% increase, which equates to $315 a month. And this is going to be covered with the current budget allocation within his division. And that comes from the general fund. but no additional request has been asked at this point in terms of the budget. Did I miss anything,
That's good.
Josh?
To create efficiencies and serve the customers.
All right, here we go.
I'm good.
Okay, item E, interlocal agreement with the development of climate mitigation.
Yeah, this has been an action that you asked for me to bring forward to you as an interlocal agreement with the Thurston Regional Council, as well as the cities of Lacey, Olympia, and Tumwater. This is to phase 1 of the climate action plan. The action will require the county to participate with $5,000 on this phase 1. And I have talked to Shelley Slatter, the Director of Public Health Social Services, and we're going to find a way to cover under her budget those $5,000, as you requested not to be coming from the general fund. Also, you requested that at some point you would like to see how the rules of engagement on this particular action will come to play, and I believe that will be outlined in the phase 2. And also, you will be taking an action on, and if you choose to participate on phase 2. And again, this is the phase 1 is just to develop a scope of work as to how the phase 2 will come together.
Okay. You have any comments, questions?
No.
Okay. I was under a different impression when the gentleman sat right here and we talked about how this was going to happen. The $5,000 was one item contingent on doing this, and the other was the business rules / rules of engagement to occur, or we go any further in that. That's what I thought was going to happen, not phase 2, waiting for the rules of engagement to happen. So I'm kind of disappointed.
Okay, so let me,
Right. In fact, I distinctly remember we're not going to go to phase 2 until we got all that kind of packaged up, if you will.
no, and let me clarify, you are not committing to phase 2 at this point.
Well, I know. But I heard, not to take words out of your mouth, you were saying that we're going to do the business rules or rules of engagement once we do phase 1 into phase 2.
Yeah, define how to.
Yeah. I want them up front.
And I don't think at this point is part of the scope of work of phase 1.
Well, that's not good.
Have you read the resolution yet?
No, I haven't, because I got my computer is.
Oh, yeah. Let's look at it real quick.
You have a
So
copy
let
of
me
that for me to
briefly
read?
describe the
That
deliverables of
resolution,
phase
there,
1.
you got it.
I can't get my computer to work. I think I'm having the same problem Birdhouse.
We were having,
So task 1 is manage and coordinate. This is from the Thurston County Regional Council, TRPC. The manage and coordinate project, the deliverables, is TRPC will facilitate at least 4 project meetings, present draft deliverables, and elicit feedback from project team, staff, and jurisdictions. TRPC will submit monthly invoices and for the tasks above, and the jurisdictions will pay for that. Task 2 is audit policies and emissions inventories. So it will be going through gathering data as to what each jurisdiction, including the county, the cities of Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater, have done to address internally. And that might be part of what Josh's and his past functions or position in terms of the sustainability efforts that the county has done already in the past. That data will be going back to TRPC as part of phase 1, is data gathering.
Right here, does that mean
Tax 3, it will be audit actions, identifying all mitigation actions, and again, the jurisdictions have adopted, have implemented. That's if any particular actions all the jurisdictions have taken formally to address this item. Item 4, or task 4, is facilitate development of an in-local agreement that will lead to a phase 2. And that will be the completion of the phase 1. And also develop the scope of work and the rules of engagement for phase 2. Those are the deliverables of phase 1. Very high level.
The scope is pretty succinct. It actually says there's no buy-in to phase two.
Nope.
At the end of phase one.
Nope.
You're right.
Now, at this point,
They
is
will
you,
amend the interlocal.
yeah, and at that point, you understanding a larger, in a larger context, what is it that this plan is going to do in the long term? And at that point, you will make a decision of whether you like to participate or not. And also, you will make a decision whether it has a fiscal impact to the county if you choose to participate in phase two.
And agreed upon distribution of costs between all parties. So we can back out or we can join in.
You can back out at this point as well.
Oh, we've tried that before.
I'm all for it.
Back it up.
Yeah, I'm all for keeping it at $5,000 to start it.
Oh, we got that problem, sorry. That's
Yeah.
not the part, it's the rules of how you want to play the game.
Well, I don't think there's any absolute obligation at this point, is there? There's no absolute rules that we have to continue or continue on at this point, is there? This is just kind of buying into a
Defining.
interlocal,
Defining what is
local partnership or something,
Discussion.
playing team ball or something at this point? Is that what it's, okay.
Ball, what's the rules of team ball?
Well, I don't think they're been decided yet. I don't think they've been decided yet.
The only initial rules of the game are in the resolution, and that is, the terms of the agreement,
Right.
Backing out, mediation, dispute resolution type stuff.
That's normal
Typical form, yeah,
language.
typical,
Yeah.
template stuff.
Roll it up just a little bit. Roll it up a little bit.
I'm holding off.
You don't mind?
No, I don't have time to, but I don't think I'm going to read it.
Is Aaron here to see if you can bring your
They're
computer?
working on it fast as they
He's
can.
working on it.
Oh, jeez.
I got them hopping and popping.
Yes.
No. I just want to know what you want to do. You also want to go forward or hold or what?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with going forward. We said to not take it out of the general fund, and we're not locked in.
Just being down this road where if you don't know what you're going into, you're going to get, it's not so easy to back out. It's not as easy to get, I'll say, shown or harassed or I don't know, just like when you see how people back out.
Well, and we would have been if we didn't invite the first 5. We would have been shunned, and we could have been, and that could have happened. So I'm okay with moving on with it. And then if we don't care, we will still have input. And if we are outgunned, so to speak, on what the rules of engagement are going to be, the scope of work, it's like, it back out. And there's always positive and negative consequences to every action we take.
If it may also, and I think your fiduciary responsibility will come to play when you assess phase 2 in the entire scope of work. Because if phase 2 requires the county to provide financial support in something the county does not have any money to do so, that will be your decision point as to how you can support or not phase 2.
It's all negotiable. If it's not to our advantage, then we just don't, we can't do it.
That's kind of the way I'm looking at it, yeah.
That's what we're doing. All right, moving on.
It's almost like handing up in front, and we don't have to keep playing poker.
Might bow out because things aren't looking too good or something.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on. Item F, I'm sorry, F. Sheriff, Lake Lawrence Regatta application.
Yeah, this is your yearly application for the regatta function that is going to be held at Lake Lawrence.
This is standard.
Yep.
It is standard, but I have to say, as far as I know, there's never been a problem out there. I don't know, does this cut the sheriff's office short? Do they have to come up with extra folks? I know this doesn't cost us anything, but it's just another burden on an activity that maybe doesn't need to be, that's all. Nobody here from the sheriff's office is going to talk about it?
My understanding that they run it on volunteer overtime. Yeah.
And I believe this is not a request by the sheriff's office, nor the county. This is a request by the Lake Lawrence, or the organizers of this event, to provide the oversight of the sheriff's office.
So it's a requirement of the permit.
What is the date here, April? What is it? What's it going to be?
We'll fix that.
Is it April 28th?
I believe so, will.
So there is a timing issue here as well. Would, I would ask, would you, as county manager, would you please clarify where this request comes from?
Yep.
I'm not sure that it comes from the boat association. I'm not sure it's needed. I think it's just another case of excessive bureaucratic oversight that's not been needed. This outfit's been operating out there since about 1952 and has had no problems that I'm aware of.
So would you like to hold this item until?
No, I don't want to hold it because there's a time element involved.
Yeah, I have a question. You say it is overtime, and does the regatta then reimburse the sheriff's office for the OT? They do
Yes,
that.
yes, that is true.
Thank you.
But I do think it's more of a blackmail than anything else, I guess is the best way I'm going to put it. It could be something to do with insurance. Now, things have certainly changed. I'd just like to know where the actual requirement comes from.
Seattle Inboard Racing Association submitted the requirement to have the sheriff.
Yes.
deputies
Yeah.
there.
No, I know the association where it's coming from. Oftentimes we get locked in, well, this is the way we've been doing it for X number of years, and so we just continue to do it and do it and do it. I think that I would like to be looking at the possibility of we don't always do business the same way we did yesterday for efficiency issues.
Do you have it back? You know?
I'll follow up with the sheriff's office, and perhaps this may be something you may consider changing for next year.
For a future thing, that's right.
All right, here we go. Item G. Commissioner approval of work session summaries. You can see the dates and times on those. So item H is the auditor's financial services. Any questions on G or H? And the next item is the departmental items, public works.
For the law enforcement officers deemed necessary by the sheriff.
There's a resolution call for seal bids for the
I want to
sewer
know.
project 98018.
Yeah, this is a yearly request from Public Works to go out to for bids for the chip seal program. On the normal basis, the chip seal program does work on just about 35 to 40 miles to county roads. And as you may recall, the chip seal, what it does is lengthening the life of a specific road. This particular actions cost the department just about $2 million on a yearly basis, and it's part of their budget. And it's composed by $500,000 from CRAB, which is the cap money, as we have discussed in the past, and also is $1.5 million from the road fund, the gas tax money. So.
How come there's just one specific, if we're talking $5 million, how come it's just one road? Or
$2
what
million.
is it? $2 million?
Yes,
For a section of Independence Road?
No, we're talking about 4A.
Chip seal.
Yeah. I think you're reading item 4B. We haven't.
Yes, you're right. Okay, sorry about that. Got it.
So we're on item 4B.
So this is an interesting request. And the department, in order to have to work on any particular segment, every single road or every single project needs to be added to the annual road program, which you approve on a yearly basis. This Independence Road was an emergency project and it needs to be done. And so it was not included on the annual road program or the 6-year plan that you approved last November. So this particular action is requesting the Board of County Commissioners to add this line item to the annual road program in order for the department to do their work. Subsequently, you will hear on the first quarter budget amendment, they will request an additional expenditure that you might be considering. So it's a two-step process that you will be considering related to addressing the needs of doing work. And again, this is really procedural. Without having a line item on the annual road program, the department legally cannot do any work on any road project, and that is stated on state law. But then you will take an action, consider taking an action in adding expenditure authority to do this work.
And then how much are we talking about?
At this point, I can't remember how much, because it's going to take a little while to do this work.
We have a briefing on Friday
Yeah.
morning on the budget amendment.
The director left.
So it wasn't part of the original 6 that we approved last November, but it's been triaged and moved to the top. Is that due to, is the excessive damage or the need to do it now because of traffic, the truck traffic, weather?
It's traffic. As you may recall, we have to close Independence Road many times. So hopefully this project will start eliminating some of those actions.
But that's, Independence Road has been closed since I was a kid.
But no, this is not the, this,
Every year.
so this is not the tail end of Independence Road.
Okay.
It's a section in the middle that we're trying to fix, as I understand it.
Where we put the sign up? The Purple Heart County sign? That was on Independence Road, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. I'm no question on the location, and was
that
hoping that
same-
Jennifer will
same
be here.
stretch of road? So I don't know if it was trucks or...
How much money are we approving or something here?
You don't approve any money with this action.
This just amends the.
It makes it so we can approve money at a later date if
Yeah.
we find it,
Yep,
or?
yep, yep.
Okay, so this is just an piece of enabling legislation then? Would that be the?
Well, yeah, because the statute states that the department or the county cannot do any work if it's not included on the annual work program.
And that's some bureaucratic rule, I take it?
That's
That is state law.
Well, yeah, which is bureaucratic rule.
If I recall, that was RCW 36180.
Okay.
I remember that one.
Wow.
So is this item already on the capital facilities plan, or will that also need to be amended?
Oh, good questions.
Because we only amend that plan once a year unless there is an emergency.
Man.
So if this can be classified as an emergency, we also can only update the CFP along with the budget action. So we need to take that action as well.
So if you like, we can move this item to next week until we can get your questions answered.
We've got your boss.
So,
We got someone from Public Works that might... Oh, welcome.
So this is item 4B, related to Independence Road.
Okay.
And I explained the commissioners their requirement to have this as a line item on the annual road program in order for the department to work on it.
Correct.
And also, this particular action does not approve any expenditure authority because the department has already submitted a request for expenditures. In the first quarter budget amendment, the commissioners will be reviewing this coming Friday. And at this point, there was some questions in terms of the actual location of the Independence Road. How come this came to the surface in terms of the emergency? And as Commissioner Hutchins stated, they approved the annual 6-year road program, and then it appears to be an emergency. And how come this came to the top of the priorities?
Sure.
And how much?
In terms of dollar amount?
Yeah, how much it will cost to address this issue?
That I might have to get back to you. But the river started eroding a portion of the road, that's why. And so we were looking at it as work has been done further upstream. It kind of changes the course of where the water is flowing and where it's hitting, and so that's what happened. And so we were looking at that. And then it got to the point where we needed to close down one lane, and that's what we've done. And now we're shifting the road about a quarter of a mile. A quarter of a mile of the road we're shifting away from the river, and that's what this project is specifically. But that happened at the end of last year.
Are we rip-wrapping the river to keep this from happening again, or are we going to be doing this again next year?
No, the idea will be if whatever improvements we'll do will prevent from further erosion. And whether it's
Well, a setback won't necessarily do that, is my
no,
concern.
But, what you're talking about, perhaps protecting the slope of the road, yes, that will be part of the process.
So that would be a rip-wrap application,
And
possibly.
Could be any other means, but certainly it's to protect the slope so the river cannot continue eroding the road.
Yeah.
The first thing we need to do is shift the road, and then as a part of that part of the solution to
This is a part of the video of the UAS that we saw last week?
Yes.
That's where the road to the river comes together?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You remember that? Oh, you weren't there.
I didn't go to that.
That was pretty intense to see that river erosion, how close it was, proximity to the road.
Correct.
So it's Independence. Oh, perfect.
So does one lane continue to be closed on
Yes.
Independence Road?
Yes.
And does that suffice,
Hold those together, I got a lot to get through this agenda, so.
does that suffice for the emergency portion of what we're doing? Because we've had to close it down? I mean, is there, lack of access to that particular area, or commercial activity? What's,
So shelve this, bring it back, and talk about it, because this is taking time. I gotta get on, I got a lot to do.
So you would like to move this to next week's agenda?
is that going to hurt anything if we do that, so we can have a little more discussion on it?
I don't think a week is going to affect the schedule of this project.
Jennifer, can you get with him and answer his question, please?
So let's move this item to next week.
I think we're on item number 5, human resources. This is the Board of Equalization annual request for, I thought we did this already.
Yeah, this is also you do on a yearly basis. This is the request from the Board of Equalization to allow them to convene any time during the year. And there's an interesting requirement that they can only do, you're the only one who can authorize meeting anytime aside from the regular meetings they have scheduled. But the requirement is when they have at least 25 petitions or 10% more above the previous year. That's the only way that triggers this request. And just to give an example, in 2016, they received 636 petitions. In 2017, they went up to 832, which meets both of the elements, more than 25 petitions and above the 10%. And that is the gist of this request. And again, this you have to do on a yearly basis as part of the legislative authority.
Any questions?
No, I guess if it's a requirement that we do it, I guess we have to do it. Huh?
Easy on that one. Item number 6 is the community plan and economic development. And we're just setting a public hearing, the renewal of the, oh my God.
This is the renewal of the interim marijuana regulation. This is again just to set the public hearing for May 1st, 2018 at 5:30 in this building. No changes at this point are proposed as part of the interim regulation. It's just to move on with what we currently have in this ordinance.
How many times has this been extended?
This will be the 7th time.
No.
Not under us, but
Not
total.
under, no,
Total.
overall, but I think you have extended, this will be your 3rd time you have extended as a new commission.
Right. It was about 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay.
All right, well, we need to at least set at 8, and then we'll
Yep,
talk about how
yep.
we want to do anything in
I'm good.
Is the overlay is the issue that I remember that needs to be addressed.
I'm not sure that we're changing anything, so.
There's an overlay that was supposed to be built prior to this particular public hearing that was tasked last time when we were considering.
I'll check on
And
here.
so there's an overlay that's supposed to be built to help Jeremy knows. He'll come there.
Yeah, exactly.
So follow up with the overlay. As I recall, the overlay request was, I think something that if you like to have a permanent, or you recall that it was, the overlay should be part of the interim.
Well, no, we can go final if the overlay's done, because I remember the part with the overlay was to stop the spreading of the Rochester area, because it kind of put parameters on it, if you will. When you draw it out, I can't remember the exact drawing, that's why I'm using my memory on that, but I remember there was a critical piece in order to move forward to be able to go final 100%.
All right, I'll check on that.
Maybe what I could do is probably bring this item at your next agenda setting next Tuesday.
Yeah, we need to revisit it.
Yeah, and just revisit as to
Scott
what,
Stell, but the overlay is the critical issue in my mind, I remember it from memory.
maybe just to understand, no changes on the interim regulation and how the overlay will play a role on whether it's a permanent or the interim.
Yeah.
I'll bring that
So
next
we're
Tuesday.
still going to set the public hearing though for May 1 or not?
Yes, because you have to.
Right.
Because
I'm sure we're not removing that.
I hate to say this, but you have to because the current regulation lapses. And this is very, very timely that you need to consider this.
Okay, so that's my only.
Otherwise, we just revert back to 0 and start all over again with nothing?
You may not consider doing that.
Thank you.
All right, 7, juvenile court probation.
So this is the write-off of the bad debt related to the parent pay program with the juvenile court. And Mike Fenton is going to be here this afternoon to walk you through as to what the
No, I
program
don't, not marijuana.
has done and some of the perhaps the challenges in collecting the fees that have been assigned to those participants within the program.
How long has this been going on?
To our knowledge, it's probably longer than at least 15 years. And as you may recall last week, you sent a letter to the Finance Committee related to this issue, but asking the Finance Committee to revisit all the different policies and procedures the government has in place in order to avoid this from happening again. Because that debt happens as part of the county business. The question is how often that debt needs to be retired. And in this particular case, this has been a bad debt. It has been accumulated, at least to my knowledge, over at least 15 plus years. It amounts to this very significant amount.
So the analysis that we have from financial services says that this $1 million accumulated since 2008.
Since 2008.
For how much money again?
1,000,000.
For this amount? Okay, 91,000.
So in
And
10 years, this bad debt accumulating, no commission has ever addressed this issue at all. Whether they kicked it down the road or not, they've never looked at this or knew about it or addressed it.
So it has been brought forward appropriately by the juvenile court to financial services for recording in the county's CAFR, but it has not been recommended to the Board of County Commissioners to write off the bad debt until now.
But if prior commission know about this?
No.
Nobody knew about it, so it's just popped up and now we're having to deal with it.
It's in your lap.
Okay.
That is an accurate statement.
All right, thank you.
I would like to know how long this has been going on.
10, 12 years.
Well, does that suffice? I mean, what was going on before then? Because they've never been collecting, as far as I know. And I've been here a long time. That's been going on. I know the process has been in place for at least 30 years.
The program has been in place for a long time.
Yes,
Right.
at least 30. So does that mean we've never dealt with this over that period of time? I'd like to know the final, if we're going to fix it, I want to know from when to when it ran and
Okay,
what it amounts to. And I think the public is obligated, has a right to know, to be informed what's been going on with their government. I'm not saying we're doing exactly the right thing or anything, but we're cleaning some stuff up here.
We're resolving.
Yeah, we're resolving something, but I'd like to know how long it's been. Has it been 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? And all I want to do is just say the truth. I want to tell the truth. Truth hurts sometimes, but I think it's worth telling the truth. We're kind of trying to get things cleaned
We're not
up.
telling the truth. It's just we don't have all the facts.
Yeah, we don't have all the facts.
We do know what the amount is. We do know it has to be addressed. And now it's on our lap.
So the information that we've been given from Financial Services and Juvenile Court goes back to 2008.
Okay, well,
That's all the farther. We have
then I guess we need to
a
ask.
complete list of accounts
Okay,
from
we need to
2008.
have at least information that we can say, that's how far back it goes. We don't have any more. That's all been archived or is gone. We can only say it's there since 2000.
We
I think it's been there a lot
specifically
longer.
asked for the entire amount to be written off, and we've been told that this is it.
and so how would that help solve any of this today? Your question is valid. You need to
I just think that the government does not always do things right, and this points it out. That's all.
You're looking for something like, was there a statute of limitations?
Yes, I mean, there might be, there could be something in there that
It's my
limits our
understanding
ability
that
to have to
there
do
is not
this.
on court fines that the court has to release the debt.
I mean, if we have to balance the books, are we going back 30 years? Maybe we only need to go back 7 years. I don't know.
Would you like to pull it?
Yeah, I would like to have a little more information myself.
I want it fixed, but I want to ensure that we're not going to get back to the same fix 10 years down the road. What's the court going to do to stop this bleeding?
So before you
Can I answer
pull
that?
it, I would respectfully request that it not be pulled because this was part of our 2017 closing, accounting, closing the books, and we've already taken the action given the guidance that we got from the board 2-3 weeks ago. So
Okay.
we need
okay,
this
right.
resolution.
Available revenue.
We've got to deal with it.
No, I realize we have to deal with it, but I'm wondering, is there a statute of limitations, so to speak? We only need to deal with it for the past 3 years.
I'll let all my debts go. 7 years.
Well, no, but, I mean, because this is affecting our bottom line in the budget.
It is my understanding that there is not a statute of limitations on fines imposed by the court.
Okay, well then do we want to just keep going and never address it? We'll just let it go for 40 years, for an
So
example,
now
and not hit our budget for $1 million.
So if we don't address it, it will become an audit finding because we will be booking a receivable on money that we know we'll never collect.
Which has been going on for the last 30
It
years.
has, but
And the
since
auditor just didn't
2008
happen to find it, right?
since 2008.
Yeah.
And it has come to your attention, right?
So now we own it?
Now the
Now we
difference is
know
you
it,
know
so
it.
we
Now we
own
know
it.
it, we
huh?
have to write it
Now
up.
you know it, you own it.
Do I hear that from you quite often, sir?
Hear what's stopping the bleeding now so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, you had a briefing from Superior Court Judge Schaller, which is specifically addressed this matter. And they're going to take a couple of steps. They're going to revamp the whole parent-pay program to have a maximum daily fee, I believe of $60, and a maximum lifetime per family of $1,000. So because at this point, how the program has been, there has never been a cap on that. And chances are, as Judge Schaller explained, sometimes families, they have 2 or 3 maybe kids involved within the system. They just keep accumulating that doesn't make any sense. But also you heard from Judge Schaller that perhaps they're going to see how this goes. If it's not effective, they may be canceling overall this program.
Thank you.
'Cause, But from now on, until they come up with something new, we have to continue to pay.
Right.
And I think that, you know, I think that, you know, I think that, 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 I think we're going to address this each year, so it's each quarter?
And that is the.
No? Okay, no, it doesn't look like it. But
There's some of the request, that's the request that you sent in your letter to the
Yes.
Finance Committee, to be a timely request from the Finance Committee to you to retire that debt on a timely matter, without having you to deal with this balloon.
Does it say quarterly?
It's
Yes,
annual,
ma'am.
annual.
Then it won't do anything, we need to do it.
So the elimination of bad debt, according to accounting standards, is done as you close your books, which is done on an annual basis.
Okay.
And the court assesses the fee, and if it goes bad, it comes out of our general fund, rather than come out of the court's budget.
It is getting written off against it's revenue that we'll never collect. So it is an impact to the general fund balance.
Yeah, the ending fund balance, right?
Yes, it is not.
I'm trying to prevent
an
that ending
action
fund
you're
balance
taking
from
to
being
reduce
drained
the
$1 million.
budget of or the court.
Well,
What was the last part, Robin?
I said the action you're taking will impact the fund balance of general fund. It will not impact the budget of juvenile court.
The entity imposing the fine, creating a
problem.
debt.
What we've been doing for the past 10 years is overstating our revenue.
Right. Okay.
We got some bonding people coming at us and going to scold us, or what?
No, I don't think so, but we can discuss the last bond rating if you'd like.
So we're at the 7 point.
But, and we need to do it, it sounds like.
7. Good?
I am good, but I hope that we could have some explanation to the citizenry out there that is ultimately paying the bill, maybe as to how this happened and how it affects the fund balance, but how it doesn't.
My thinking is going to be addressing what about the program, perhaps when it was created, and also the difficulties of recovery of getting the fees.
Do we admit we've made a mistake once in a while to the public, that something's happened, and I mean, I'm man enough to admit when I make a mistake, and I'd like the public to know that we're trying to rectify things. We want to get it right. We want to do it right.
If you like, within the process, give me the floor, and I can
Okay.
address
That would satisfy me.
address the letter that you sent to the Finance Committee in order to address this issue and prevent from happening again.
Okay.
And highlight that.
BoCC.
Okay.
We'll move it on to April 15th.
That's all my.
Got it.
I don't have a BoCC.
We're gonna
Either
make copies.
We'll just jump to the Board of Health and knock that out. All right?
Okay.
Are you ready? Anybody else you want to say?
Not at this time.
All right, I'm on the Board of Health for April 10th until we get the BoCC one there. So, call 10th of April at 3:30, call the meeting to order. And we have some proclamations. Oh, approve the agenda accordingly, and then proclamations. We have the Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month, and I think Shelley Willis is going to receive that. Walk us through that.
And Trish Gregory. Both of them are represented on the Thurston Thrives Education Resiliency Action Team, and also on several other committees that work to address child abuse in our community. So they will be here to accept it.
So, do you have the copy?
Yes, it is in your it should be in your materials.
Just want to make sure it's all written up, signed, and everything ready to kind of go this juncture. So
It has not been signed yet.
easy part, but I didn't make sure. All right. Any questions on the child abuse prevention awareness month? No? No? Okay, let's move on to the next one. The board will begin child abuse.
Sexual Assault Awareness Month?
I'm sorry?
Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I see. I don't know why I read it twice. Okay, you're right. Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And this is Sarah Lloyd and a whole slew of people. Are they going to come?
Yes, they will be here to receive it and share a little bit about what they do. I believe someone from Monarch, that's also in partnership with St. Peter's, is on there. I don't know if Astro's attending or not, perhaps.
Just curious.
Is somebody coming from Safe Place for this?
Yes, Sarah Lloyd, she's the new executive director. There's another proclamation. I don't know if it is or not. I thought the light was green, but okay. And it's also Public Health Awareness Month, and I don't see that on here, but it is in the packet.
So it has.
Oh, there it is. Public Health Month. Yes.
It said the word awareness, but it's okay.
That may just be me misspeaking on.
Okay, so are you introducing these as you go along?
Yes, I will introduce all of them, and Chris Hawkins and perhaps David Schaffert from Thurston Thrives, and a few other members will be there to accept the Public Health Month proclamation.
Any questions?
No.
You'll be reading the proclamations?
No, I will not, but I will provide a little bit of information to support you in queuing it up.
He's trying to get out of me.
I'm not.
Okay.
Okay. So now I'm item number 3, opportunity for the public to address the board. Anybody that you might know of, anybody might know of? Because I invited a couple people from the hazardous weather task force.
I'm not aware of anyone else.
No Chinese stuff. All right, item number 4, which is department items of Washington State Prescription Monitoring Program. And Chris Baumgartner is going to come?
Yes, you had. Yes, well, you had a briefing with Mr. Baumgartner a few weeks ago, and he shared information about the prescription drug monitoring program, and you requested that he come back to be on camera, and so he's agreed to do that, and he's modified his slide presentation to fit within our time requirements for that.
Oh, we requested this.
Yes, you did.
And we don't have any action on it, it's just education, right?
No, but it
Yes.
is. It was a follow-on to a larger conversation.
okay.
That, we can't really do anything at county level for the PMP, right? Obviously, we can monitor, but where we can have action, remind me of that name of the conditional thing.
You will have a conversation in your planning session related to the
Notifiable condition.
And how are we on that? 'Cause that's one thing we wanted to
running the
do.
risk of elaborating this issue in a larger context. I have this item on your planning session, and based on the conversation that you had on the briefing with your health officer, perhaps the health officer has changed her mind in terms of declaring a notifiable condition. So that changes the set of expectations that you set.
Okay.
And again, on
So what I'm
Thursday,
hearing is, set it aside to the 5th of April, there's been a different viewpoint.
there is
from
and I think it may require for you to look in the larger context, perhaps the change of direction the health officer may be taking.
and just have you as a larger
Is
conversation.
it the first item on the item for Thursday?
I have it on, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Michelle is aligned to come on Thursday for 3 items.
And I've asked Dr. Wood to come to speak to you directly about that issue.
All righty. Does she have any, like, I'm asking you, but any pre-read summary, executive summary paper or something about her decision? Or?
I've asked Dr. Wood to provide that to me so that I can give it to you prior to Thursday.
Okay, sure.
I requested that of her yesterday afternoon, so hopefully by today I'll have that for you.
Just want to see her thoughts and the facts and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm prepared.
Yeah. All right. You bet. So I'm on item, or anything else on department item number 4, the P&Ps there? No? No? Okay, I'm moving on to number 5. Okay, this is the food safety item. So this is the role of the WSDA, state veterinarian, and food safety. Is Dr. Joseph coming?
Yes, he is.
Yay.
Upon your request.
You remember seeing him?
No.
Oh, you should. Oh my God.
What are we talking about?
Dr. Joseph, number 5.
Yeah, I know that, but what's he going to talk about?
He gave the briefing of how the
Veterinarian.
Yeah, veterinarian thing to the Rotary thing.
Oh,
Yeah, he was at the
yeah,
Rotary.
okay.
Yeah, you'll like the briefing.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Fun.
Yeah,
It's fun.
yeah, I'm telling you this venue, but no. But, oh, yeah, he's very good.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
You bet. That'll be good.
All right, so any questions about that?
No.
No? Okay, now item number 6, which is another food safety, the tale of 3 closures. Okay, what's this all about? And so, Sammy, he's going to brief it?
Yes, Sammy's going to come and discuss with you some of our procedures for making a decision to close restaurants and just kind of how that process works. We do have some modifications to the slide deck that we'll be making to remove specific restaurant identifications.
Oh,
Well, we have to have 3 down.
Yes. So he's going to share information about that because there's some public interest in that.
Well, the public interest is a public outcry.
I think that the goal of this presentation is just to share with you and with the public what the process is and to share more about what the health department's role in that and how that gets communicated with the public, and the Olympian posts restaurant inspection reports and kind of how that process works, just to provide further education about it.
So the 3 closures, what's the public sentiment on that?
There has been some questions regarding the closures of those particular restaurants, and we don't want to specifically call out those specific restaurants. So we're gonna make that anonymous, but still share what the process is about it.
But are you receiving feedback from them? And it's just, give me the process. Are they mad or happy, supportive, what's the mood ring like of the closures? Naming the closures.
I would say that we did hear some feedback because the way in which the type of restaurants that those were the same cuisine. And so there was some information about why are these particular type of restaurants the ones that were closed as far as their practices and how that was advertised by the Olympian. So we heard some feedback. So this is kind of to try to provide some better clarification about how and why we do that.
It seems like they're being accused of targeting. Specific.
Somewhat,
Okay.
but that was not the case. So Sammy's just going to give an overview about
There's
it.
a health issue involved here.
Yes.
So we might expect some public comment up front.
I think
I don't know when the
I think that's unlikely that this isn't a current, this is not an issue that's going on this week or anything like that. So all the
businesses
restaurants
closed?
impacted
Did we close down
were
some
notified.
businesses?
Yes, there were some that were closed.
And they're not going to reopen? They did reopen. Are we trying to be politically correct or something here? Is that what's
Yes,
going on? We're
yes, sir.
beating around the bush or something? Is that?
We talked about last year, earlier this year, last month, when they were closed.
Art, do you want to come up here since Sammy's not with us? Yeah.
In the paper.
Well, yes, this is Art.
Is this still art?
So what's happened is there's been a few restaurants that have had very high restaurant scores. And so as a result of that, there's been temporary closures until they correct their practices and basically can assure us that they can prepare food in a safe way. And so what Sammy was wanting to do is, because the Olympian has picked up on these and they publish restaurant scores, and they don't necessarily put the complete story in the newspaper. So they'll say that restaurant X was closed, and they won't say that they were reopened, or they won't identify what the procedure was to allow them to reopen. So we've received a lot of comments about that. To get to Commissioner Hutchings' comment, people have paid attention to this and they're very interested, but they also, when they see high scores, they want to have some assurance that there's been a proper methods employed to make sure the place is safe. And so what Sammy wanted to do was to use some examples to highlight the work that we do and how we try to work with the establishments to make sure that they are safe to open again. And they're trying a couple of different approaches to try to be as effective as possible, and collaborative also. So we're trying to do that. So that's what this is about. And in fact, there have been actually more than 3 restaurants that have been closed this year because of high scores. But then they've reopened anywhere from a couple of days to, in one case, they were closed over the weekend on a voluntary basis because the restaurant manager realized they had some work to do. It was going to take some time.
So involuntary wasn't reported that way.
In one case, I think they reported it that way. They said that the person chose to close the restaurant as opposed to us doing it, but the result ended up being the same.
That's one of several reasons I don't subscribe to the Olympian.
Yeah. The other thing that Sammy was going to do is highlight that we do publish the restaurant scores online, so people can go online if they know where to look, and they can see the stuff and all the details, so that if someone has questions about their favorite restaurant, they can see what the last inspection results were and if there were any issues, and so they can kind of be informed consumers. So that's one thing we'll highlight as well, as where our website is.
I'm just trying to not share information about the specific restaurants, because I don't
Just
want
about the
to.
process.
Yes, just about the process. So that's your sense of me trying to be correct, is just trying to give you the factual information.
Yeah, because you don't want to single out a
No,
establishment.
right.
But I think it's good for the public to understand what the process the staff has to go through in assessing. It really is protecting the health of the citizens as a whole.
Public health, yeah. Good.
Do we once in a while use this process maybe to close a nuisance venue that's been, is it used that way as well sometimes? I mean, we're going after apparently licensed venues.
Right.
Do we ever do that? I mean, it seems like we're always dealing with nuisance venues. I don't know, down off of Skookumchuck Road, there was one last year, serving food and alcohol. Somehow we had to go with the liquor board and the deputy sheriffs and all that. So is this a process that we could use to close down?
Well, this has to do with a permitted establishment. So if they have a permit, then we have certain authorities. If they
don't have a permit, we don't have any authority?
If they don't have a permit, then we can say you need to get a permit or you need to stop operations. We do that also.
We do, okay. Okay.
All right, Mayor. Do we have everything you want on here?
I'm good, yeah.
Anything else you want to add to the?
No, I have just a question for you on this item. Is there is there additional information that you would like to see related to this food safety item that maybe we're not?
In particular, Sammy?
Yes.
Is there something you're looking for?
No, not for me.
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
I'm good.
Do you just, can you
I may stay here, okay.
Stay here, please.
But I'll soon bring some backup with me to the table if need be.
The back is sitting back there.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so we have another 7. Okay, item number 7. And aquatic nuisance weed control prescription for Lawrence Lake. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so, Patrick's coming?
Patrick is here.
And Tim is here.
Tim. Oh, but this is going to require a vote?
What, are you guys camera shy or something? Or?
Yeah, come on up.
What camera's operating? Just that one?
So this is Lawrence Lake. So we've been through one of these before as far as prescription. I think it was
Long Lake, you did last year.
It seems like pretty much every year you get to have a.
Well, I thought we did it for Long Lake and Lawrence Lake early last year. You mean we're taking a year to get to do?
Well, this just came up a few weeks ago.
Specific prescriptions for specific lakes.
Okay.
All right, who's got the floor?
So this, I can mention it really quickly, and these are the folks who are the experts on the actual prescription. But one of the things you get to do is the Board of Health, according to the policy that you or your predecessors have adopted over the years, is that when there's a proposal to apply pesticides to a lake or a sensitive area, you as the Board of Health have to approve that. And that's a policy that's been in place in some form or another since 1989. And so what's coming before you as the Board of Health then is a prescription to control nuisance weeds on Lawrence Lake. And so that's something that the Lakes folks, Tim, has prepared, and then that's been reviewed by the Pest and Vegetation Management Advisory Committee, and they now have a recommendation to take to you to approve the prescription, or at least they've gotten to that point.
Yes.
It's all been happening very quickly, so they have a recommendation then to have you as the Board of Health approve the prescription. And that's again according to policy, and so then if you concur with them, then you can approve it, and that would allow then the Lakes Management folks to go about actually implementing the prescription later this year. And Tim could probably tell you about the timing and things associated with that.
Timing and what the community is thinking and saying about it.
What's the community think about this?
Oh, the community is in support, and they are driving partly this. And I would also add, because it's our group that wrote the prescription and researches that it is nearly identical to the one that you did approve for Long Lake last year, in that it adds a contact herbicide, just another tool to the toolbox to deal with weed shift and some other issues out there, and to take cost effectiveness into the mix as well.
Okay, I mean, we're covering all the stuff we talked about before, right? I mean, we're just fixing.
And I believe this prescription allows for larger latitude to treat the weeds.
And we're using a kind of a standard prescription that is authorized by the Department of Health or Ecology or whoever is the regulatory state authority, right? We're kind of following those guidelines.
Right, so it has to meet, Ecology has authority over the use of pesticides on lakes.
Pesticides and herbicides, is that what you're talking about?
Any herbicide would be a part of a type of pesticide.
Oh, okay.
And so it has to apply, state law needs to be met. And then in this case, you've got a county policy, which actually is more stringent because of the public health concerns that have been voiced over the year. And so the committee has reviewed it in light of that policy, and they're making a recommendation to you to approve the prescription. Okay. And then, as Tim has indicated, it's consistent with, or it's similar to what's been done with Lawrence Lake, and it provides some additional tools for the Lakes Management Program as they're trying to deal with nuisance weeds on Lawrence Lake.
Okay.
And again, if you want to get into the weeds, and
no, I don't want to get it. I don't want to get into the
experts.
But
sort of a pun. It's true.
Jim, is aquatic nuisance weed different than the noxious weed board and what they deal with?
Yes.
That's more land-based, freeways, roads, and such.
Well, yeah, there's aquatic noxious weeds as well, but this prescription deals primarily, although there is a noxious weed component to it, it deals primarily with unlisted nuisance vegetation out there that can become a recreational, a safety risk if they are allowed to grow to too large of a degree. So the goal out there is to manage the weeds, not eliminate the weeds. We want to maintain those for fish habitat and other beneficial uses, but we want to also not have swimmers get tangled up in them and different issues like that.
But does the noxious weed control board also deal with aquatic, or is it they're completely separate?
They are somewhat separate. There is there's yellow flag iris that surrounds Lake Lawrence that the noxious weed board would get involved with via a different prescription.
All right, thank you.
Anything else?
No, we're just going to fix a bunch of problems. And we can still do the roadside guardrail business and save us some money,
That was
right?
approved last year.
Okay, so we're still
That's
okay
still
with
the
that?
books.
Okay, good enough. That's good. I'm good. Thank you. That's all I want to know.
Okay, so I'm just jumping to number 9, your director's report.
Thank you.
Number 10.
Have your face to them.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Lydia, you got it? All right, we're going to take a 6-minute break, and then we'll come back. So we're going to do take care of BoCC after 10. Take a break.
We're not going to be approving
Just make sure
these
that
today,
your
are they?
microphones are
These
still-
boards, advisory boards and commissions. I mean, well, no, we said we'd do Paul, but.
That's already done.
Yeah.
Commissioners,
No.
make sure your microphones were in a break, so.
Okay. Oh, I can't talk? I mean, I don't care. I'm not saying anything secret. I'm
Make
just.
sure everything is
Okay, so I'm not supposed to talk. Okay. I do have.
Welcome to the
Geez, why are you yelling at me? Christmas. God, kill me.
I have an answer to this.
I pushed it off speaker and it went right back onto speaker.
Like really trying to listen so
Okay, good.
intently.
Okay, good now. Well, I think we got the one on the consent. This one's on consent. That's all. That's all. Yeah, okay. Okay,
And this is muted.
so quit, don't talk. No talking. We have to have some comedy involved here.
Shut up, everybody.
I'm sorry.
Leave me alone.
I'm sorry.
You're a total show
Hurt your feelings.
Not fair.
Now you to make me less text heavy. Oh,
There was a walkthrough.
ask a question.
Those estimate how many questions the commissioners may have on a specific item, so. Sorry.
That's fine. Did we have?
I'll come back to this.
Oh, it's a survey. 'Cause I upgraded my phone.
I'll buy you coffee for that.
Okay.
Peanut butter, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
Peanut butter what?
Peanut butter pie. Peanut butter pie. Please let me. Yes.
Howdy, sir.
Good morning.
How are you?
All three amigos. Wonderfully well, thank you.
Good.
How was, China? Everywhere?
China, in a word, it was over the top, fun, exciting, exhausting, and productive. Eye-opening, emotional.
What happened to in a word?
It was, oh my goodness, there's no one word to describe it. It was never in my top 500, oh, I want to do this.
Overwhelming.
It was
That was Michael K's word when I was checking with him.
It was overwhelming, and I think we put in like 65, 70 hours in a week. And that didn't count travel time. I mean, it was exhausting, but equally fun and equally productive. And an eye-opener. I would do it again, except
Take me?
we were taken and we were treated as dignitaries. We had police escort. We never stopped for red lights or traffic or roundabouts. Police escort everywhere we went. High-class hotel, big hosted meals from it. Now, if I went back with my wife, I'd be a schmuckatelli tourist, you know.
Yeah.
It would be a different experience. But, oh my goodness, it was amazing. Very productive. It was very productive.
That's cool.
Yeah. And it was built in a little bit of fun too, but a little bit of fun, you can make a lot of fun in Iowa too.
How often do you get treated like that? So it's
Never.
Nice.
Never.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And there's no Facebook, there's no outward social media, all that is very
Right.
closed. So about 5 days into it, all us Americans are sitting around the table for breakfast. I said, hey, you want to know what I heard on the news this morning? They said, what? So whatever they wanted me to hear. That was it.
That's good. What do they serve you for breakfast?
They had this Good grief, at the restaurants, or the hotels we stayed at, they gave a breakfast, and it was like from here to the Superior Court of Italian, traditional British breakfast, all kinds of Asian type food fare, and fruit, juices. I mean, they had everything laid out. So you can have whatever you want. There was a smorgasbord of Class C for people standing there. What kind of omelet? What kind of stuff you want in your omelet? And it was just whatever you wanted.
Nice.
Except I went up on my first day.
Do you have bacon on lox?
I didn't see any, no. Didn't see any. I walked up to the big giant juice bar, and they had apple, watermelon, grapefruit, orange, and all this stuff. And so I walked up, and they had a bar behind it. I said, "Hello, Bloody Mary?" And the guy didn't speak English. Bloody Mary? Bloody Mary not here. Okay. Vodka and tomato juice? What? Tomato juice. No tomato juice. So I just grabbed grapefruit juice and sat down. And then the manager came over, very Chinese. I apologize to my staff. They're new here. Is there anything else you'd like?
Vodka.
Yeah! I don't know how to push it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
That was good.
No. Bloody Mary not here.
No.
Okay. Maybe she slept in.
Right.
It was over the moon. Oh my goodness.
Sounds good.
But oh
This
my
is
God,
over with a while.
so freaking tired. Mike's off. What? Thank you. Say it again. Did you guys hear that? I was right.
You were right.
Thank you.
That's the only thing.
How you doing?
What's up? I was there last Thursday. Oh, that's good. Got a little recommended for you. We're going to talk about this letter in a second?
Yeah, I got one paper for you.
Okay.
I got it for everybody. Just basic facts and then some more new information. Use power. That's new.
Oh, good.
It used to be.
Very, very good. Thank you. What's up, Mark?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, what is the logic?
That was a good presentation last
what?
week. The
Oh,
suicide.
yeah, I'm glad you,
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. Turnout too. The place was packed.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Good. I didn't see much of her, actually. Michigan State. Wow.
Oh, we learned once at one time.
Yeah.
Are you oh, you're good? Okay, I'll borrow it.
Yeah, she's good. Yeah, primo.
Yeah,
PHL office.
still got my assistant in there. Lives in his own office.
No, I'm going to,
That's horrible that was in there though.
That's right.
It was reclaimed.
Yeah, multiple times.
Oh.
Yeah, hopefully.
I don't think there's been any refurbishing done.
Oh no.
Okay.
Don't lean on the desk.
Don't get right.
It's against the
It's
wall.
dangerous territory.
That's funny.
My little grandson on Easter
Oh my gosh.
in a little suit.
He is
7 weeks.
all gussied up, isn't he?
Yep.
Those are dressed up as an adult, I got.
That's hilarious. your granddaughter now. She must be around 2.
Yeah, she's 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So cute.
You have a whole IT department looking at your computer.
I know. So I'm so angry.
Still having issues? Yeah.
You either?
It affected everyone. You were just the first one.
It just got, but mine got fixed.
Yeah.
I get it. Not having issues.
Yeah, I don't think Hutchins did. Mine was working this morning and then quit.
This might be too loud.
Alrighty, here we go. April 10th, 2018, the BoCC agenda. We have Commissioner Hutchins do the Pledge of Allegiance, seek approval for the agenda and the minutes for April 3rd, 2018. And we have one presentation scheduled. That's the technology in agriculture.
Yep. You may recall last year the students from the Young High School came and gave a presentation. There was some sort of a debate related to the Hearst decision at that time. So they requested to come and have the same conversation, and this is now related to technology and agriculture. So there will be about 10 minutes for their presentation, their interaction, and that will give you an opportunity for you to interact with the Young High School students as well.
Pretty good day.
Also, you have a proclamation that is related to the National Equal Pay Day. And I will introduce the subject, and the Commissioner Hutchins may read the proclamation.
Sure. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, so opportunity for the public to address the board, we don't know.
I don't have anything on the record.
Sure. County manager's update?
If there's any issues highlighted today, I will follow up next week.
Sure. So now we're at consent items A through D. And so the first one is the reclassification of pay.
Yeah, there's item 3A. This is my request. I'm looking at the Commissioner's office as to how the structure has been currently working, and I'm trying to find some efficiencies with very little investment. Okay? So at this point, I'm requesting for the Commissioners to consider reclassifying one of the public information positions to public information supervisor. It will allow this position to act as a supervisor, team lead, and start forming a little more concise as to how the communications strategies should be put in place in the Commissioner's office as well as in the county. This particular action goes from $6,524 to $7,123 a month. It's just about 10% increase and a total cost of $649 a month.
Any questions?
Where's it come from?
This is allocated to several funds in the county. There's not just, including the general fund, because it provides services to all the.
Any questions? No. Okay.
Okay, indirect cost.
And that applies to all of ours, except yours.
Yeah, ours is a little different.
All of us in the Commissioner's office is assigned as part of the indirect.
Yeah.
Okay, 3B. It's a resolution for reclassification of position assistant planner. Permit.
This is another item related to the community planning economic development. As I stated before, Josh's attempt to align the current staffing levels and classifications to address the needs of the work. This particular action for your consideration is reclassifying an assistant planner position to a permit assistant technician 2. This particular action goes the opposite direction. Goes from $5,908 a month to $5,103 a month. It's a 14% decrease, which is also just about $805 a month decrease. So in that gives you a perspective. With the directors looking at all the different staffing levels, no every single request results in an increase in payments.
Thank you.
And that gives you a perspective that is always looking about the business and from the business point of view.
I like it. Hard to argue about that.
Cool. 3C. You have any questions on 3B? Okay, 3C, prosecuting attorney reclassification of legal support coordinator.
Yeah, this is a reclassification for this is an individual who's currently holding this position, and the prosecuting attorney's office is requesting to reclassify the current legal support coordinator to a legal support manager. Apparently, this person already doing that type of work, and really allows the prosecuting attorney's office to start separating the administrative functions versus the operating functions of that office. This action will move from $5,920 a month to $7,163 a month, which is at $1,243 a month, or a 21% increase. I had a conversation with Christy Peters as to where the money will come from. At this point, they're planning to cover everything within the current allocation and are not expecting to request additional funding from the commissioners. Everything is coming from the general fund. A little bit of history she has provided to me. As you may recall, 2 of the high-paid prosecuting attorneys were elected as judges, and also one of the high-paid prosecuting attorney retired, so and they hired a lower-level prosecuting attorneys. So everything is going to be covered through salary savings. And the question that I ask is, what in the next few years when those individuals will come up to? And from her perspective, in order for any of the young attorneys who just hired to get to that point of high-level prosecuting attorney, will take them at least 10 to 12 years to get to that point. So in the long term, they're still planning to manage within the current allocation, and they're still currently managing through salary savings.
Any questions?
No, just doing business, it sounds like, right? Now, I am curious, you said it all comes from general fund?
Yeah.
And so that additional $12,000 reduction comes out of the ending fund balance. So that cuts our ending fund balance down a little more each time. Why is it that it comes out of general fund totally? I mean, why wouldn't some of that come from other dedicated funding sources?
I did ask her that if this particular position can be funded by other grants or any other means. And it just happened this particular position is solely funded by the general fund.
And that person has nothing to do with helping out issues at the road department or health department?
So is it,
well,
is
I don't
it
know.
civil?
It always has to come from.
Is this position in the civil division or the criminal division?
I believe it's in the civil, but I.
So if it's in the civil division, the entire civil division is allocated out through the indirect rates.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
If
General
that's
fund
what
mentions
this is, it's paid for out of the general fund, just like in our own office. And then on a 2-year lag, it's allocated out through indirect. That's how civil works.
Okay, good.
If it's criminal, however, then it's 100% general fund.
Okay, got it. Good.
Okay. You got a question? No. Okay. I think the auditor finance services is the next one, right? 3D.
Yeah, there's the weekly voucher list.
Sure. And so now we're moving into department items, public works, a quick claim deed for Washington State Department of Transportation.
Yeah, the DOT is planning to do a road project at the intersection, State Route 510 and Marion Road. They're planning to do a roundabout. And as part of the normal process, since there is a state right-of-way in SR 512, they like the local jurisdictions to get a quick claim deed of the road common to that intersection, county road. So what that do is we just give them the authority to go ahead and negotiate whatever right-of-way they need as part of their project, and after the project is completed, then they deed back to the county whatever is left. So it's more about procedural step as they do state projects in association with county roads.
I'm good.
You good with it? Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's try 4B then, the removal of trees on McKenzie Road.
This is an interesting request.
Yeah, I've never had one like this.
And this is, this is new to me. So apparently,
Same here.
In the Thurston County Code 13.56, requires the Board of County Commissioners to take an action when the staff is trying to take 3 trees or more, not individual trees. So in this particular case, there are 3 trees located on the McKenzie Road, and so the department is looking for authorization from the board to take 3 trees down. They have deemed hazardous.
I am good with
That
taking
might,
them down and taking
that
them.
might be perhaps an opportunity down the road to whether you really like to get involved in this type of actions.
No, I don't want to be involved. in
So
this type
that
of
may be
action.
something we can probably put on the to-do list as to how we can
Change that
be more
ordinance.
flexible, more administrative than
Okay.
legislative.
Yeah, raise the level.
These trees are deemed hazardous to traffic.
Yeah, it's within the county traffic. It's either to traffic or to private property, but it's our trees. So again, this is news to me.
I've seen it before.
You have?
Yeah, it's quite a while though.
What did you say?
It's been quite a while since I've seen an
Oh,
action
sure.
like this.
All right. I think we're on 4C, which is a resolution to call for sealed bids.
Yeah, item.
Road Operations Division. It doesn't say specifically where on
Yeah,
this
this
one.
is a yearly event. This is a request for sealed bids for supply of asphalt materials. And at this point, well, every year the department goes and secure vendors. They can provide materials, asphalt, or perhaps some aggregates, and to conduct their yearly maintenance operations. And that's the request for.
there a cost? that we're-
No, at this
I know
point,
we're requesting.
You're requesting, so the cost will come in, and you will have another opportunity to award those bids when the department is ready to select a low bidder.
But typically, is it like 4 million?
No, it's just about 1.5 million in terms of
1.5.
materials. And this is the materials that not necessarily a contractor use, it's the materials the road crews use to, whether it's patch, potholes and normal operations they do.
Hose lift by trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, item number 5 is Central Services, contract award for scheduling and time management system for the Thurston County Sheriff's Office. What's this all about?
Yeah, a little bit of history on this. You may recall the Sheriff's Office was in the process of updating their time management system. And you may recall that we went through a couple of requests for proposals. None resulted in something viable and usable for the Sheriff's Office. The last request for proposals, the in time came as a little better. It has, the Sheriff's Office as well as Central Services have been working with this outfit just to make sure they deliver what the Sheriff's Office is requested. So, and this is the last step in the process for you to authorize Martin Casey in this case to sign the contract to secure this in-time application.
Where's that money coming?
This is already allocated as part of the,
Okay.
there is no additional request.
Okay. Number 6, Public Health and Social Services, DSHS, Division of Behavioral Health Recovery Community Prevention and Wellness Initiative Agreement.
Yeah, this is a mouthful action.
Why is it so long?
Yeah, when I was reviewing it this morning, there's some opportunities to reduce the action. But the gist of it is to sign a contract for services with the State Department of Health and Social Services, the Division of Behavioral Health, for recovery prevention services for the amount of $248,441, and will go from March 1st, 2018 to June 30, 2019. And Chris Hawkins is here to answer any questions about the program. And again, I'll work with Chris in reducing the action.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions that you commissioners have about this particular contract? This would allow us to continue some work that we've been doing in substance use prevention. We've been focused on tobacco and vaping in the past year. This would be building upon that work and some work that we're doing regionally on marijuana prevention as well, to work with community coalitions. You may be familiar with the Bucota Tenino Healthy Action Team. This would be to support that coalition and help it bring to fruition some of its priorities and interventions that they want to do in that community to prevent substance use among youth. And then there would be a second community involved with this particular community prevention and wellness initiative that is yet to be determined. The Rainier Community Cares Coalition has backed out of being part of this program with DSHS. So they're determining what the next priority is among communities in Thurston County.
And why was that? You know?
I believe the school district was not willing to participate further with this, so that's what prompted the pulling out of that coalition from the CPWI initiative, because that's a required component from the state. They said you got to have the school district willing to have an intervention specialist within the schools. The school district didn't want to continue that.
Something to do with unfunded mandates or something to do with the program? We don't have any idea why?
I don't have the detail of why exactly the school district decided not to pursue it. I do know that together, the previous contractor with the CPWI work that had been providing support to that Rainier Communities Cares Coalition is pursuing some other funding that does not have that same requirement to continue work with that coalition. That's under drug-free communities funding that they're pursuing right now, and our department would be a partner in that effort. But for whatever reason, they decided not to continue the relationship with DSHS.
But Together still in Rainier?
Together is intending to still be in Rainier, provided that they are awarded that drug-free communities funding, is my understanding.
And how was Tenino School District selected?
The selection criteria include looking at the degree of risk that there is in the student population. I believe income levels is another factor in it. So they have the state has a set of selection criteria by which they choose the communities, and they're going through that now to determine what that replacement community, second community would be in our county. But that funding does have to stay in our county, which is why they're willing to contract with us to provide that support, because they know that it's going to be somewhere in Thurston County that continues.
Then to be that, you go to Tenino Healthy Action Team, and they are on it.
Yep, they're doing very well.
Excellent choice. Yeah.
Just for Chris, maybe now isn't the time to go into it with me, but all the schools and stuff, they're worried about security and a lot of other things. You know, I always wonder about unfunded mandates and such. I don't know enough about your program, but are there areas here where we can incorporate, you know, a counselor and a deputy sheriff working together or something as in the same position that could give us the best of both worlds during some of these intervention type things where, I know DARE program, we work with kids all the time trying to keep them from being involved in drugs, alcohol, peer pressure, bullying, whatever it is. Is there any ability here that we might be able to do a little shifting and work with the sheriff's office and say, hey, if you're willing to do a little counseling with these kids, I don't know what the criteria would be with those individuals working in the schools. Do you know, is there any hope here that we could do two things with the same amount of money somehow?
The program that the state is trying to push out to communities around the state is a fairly set model.
Okay. So there's no leeway.
It's got some flex. I mean, it is a community coalition, so it kind of depends on the conversation at the table there as to what priorities are picked and how they want those programs delivered. So there are some opportunities to adapt things and try to achieve some efficiencies.
In your area of interaction with these activities, I mean, just maybe keep it in mind, just be aware of it. I know parents are very concerned about security with their kids. And maybe we can keep them off of dope and protect them at the same time somehow. I don't know. Any way we can figure something out that's beneficial for the community and make a better expenditure of that money. That's all.
And certainly the coalition does involve law enforcement from the local community, and so in Tenino's case that would be Tenino Police Department, but I'll certainly look for opportunities to create those linkages with the Sheriff's Office as well.
And the county sheriff was always at the Tenino meetings. Would it be that they were always showing up consistently, bulk council and whatnot?
All right, we're going to move on to item number 7. Thank you, Chris. Very kind of you. Commissioners and county managers' items is set a public hearing for the budget amendment in the biennium budget of 2017-2018.
For the first quarter budget amendment public hearing, you will hear the details of the request this Friday morning. So I scheduled a briefing for you. And again, this is just to set the public hearing for May 1st, 2018, and the action.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
Are we going to hear from individual entities that are coming forward, or just staff here?
Staff.
Okay.
Any comments? No. All right, so we're going to move down to 3 o'clock time frame where we have a public hearing to change precinct boundaries and update county code, reflect precinct boundary changes and update county code commissioner district legal descriptions.
Yeah, you had a briefing from the county auditor a couple of weeks ago related to this particular item. And again, this is to hear public testimony as to the proposed changes on the precinct boundary districts. And for your consideration, there's two actions. One is to close the public hearing, and also as an option, depending on the public testimony that you may receive, you may take formal action in approving those changes on the district boundaries as well.
Okay. Any comments? Comment? Hutch?
Do you expect any public comment or feedback from us at all?
I don't think so. Unlikely.
Okay. I have no comments.
Alrighty, so I'm on this piece of paper, and we have exactly 45 minutes to get through the remaining part of this without a lockdown.
Do we want to talk about lockdowns?
No.
No.
Nope. I'm going to jump around, and so so I see Jennifer's here, and Josh is here, and Mark is here. Is there anything on here that you're waiting on to get an answer on?
We've got Allison here for number 1, the climate adaptation plan.
Okay.
Alice is here for the commissioner's check-ins on meadows mitigation.
Okay, and Jennifer, do you have anything else on here? No. Just, okay, and then Montezuma Meadows, okay. Okay, why don't we try the CJTA letter, funding letter, and then we'll circle back to all those, because this is kind of easy, okay? So can y'all come forward and talk about this? And we'll knock this out real quick. And then we'll jump back up to the other two.
So I'll open on this one.
Okay, sure.
So county commissioners received a letter from DSHS stating that in this legislative session, the legislature has changed the laws regarding the CJTA funding. In the past, the funding went to the BHO, and the BHO worked with a group of representatives of county offices and departments and came to an agreement on how the money would be spent in the county. The legislative change is that the Board of County Commissioners has essentially first right of refusal. It is up to the board whether or not you would like the money to continue to go through the BHO or for it to come directly to the county. So that's the question before you. We have until April 23rd for the board to make a decision. And we invited Joe and Mark here today to tell you a little bit about how the money is used.
Okay, so what's your background, and do you have a recommendation?
I would recommend that the county picks it up and not go through the DHO.
Okay, and why?
The panel that's created on the CJTA fund pretty much makes the recommendation. While we've handled it administratively, DHO really has not had a say in terms of how the fund gets used or even incorporating it in what we do otherwise.
For housing?
Yeah, there are some new things this year.
New things that are coming up.
Okay, go ahead.
Treatment supports in particular.
Did you say treatment support?
Yeah, treatment
Okay.
supports, transportation, bus passes, childcare.
Sure.
Vocational housing subsidies are new this year. That will start July 1st. And there's also 10% admin allocation is allowed. So there's,
The county can pick up 10% to manage the fund.
The reporting requirements are not substantial at this point. Monthly expenditures, we have annual CJTA plan updates, and some quarterly activity reports. The only caveat I'd say is that if the county chooses to contract with a provider that doesn't receive Medicaid, that provider will have to work out something with the state in order to report that data.
Sure.
So that's the only caveat that I can see.
So you're saying your recommendation is to forego it from the BHO standpoint and have the county pick it up. So is the county prepared to receive, and what's your recommendation? And then we can talk about it amongst us three.
So my recommendation is similar, that the county would receive the money directly for the same reason. The BHO does not spend the money, the county spends the money. The bulk of it is currently going to drug court, with a very small amount going to our public defender office. It doesn't have to continue that way, but the people who would make the recommendation are all county entities. As far as who the new administrator would be.
That's what I'm interested in.
My recommendation would either be public health would be able to administer this funding, or the treatment sales tax, since it is behavioral health funding and has a Medicaid component, we could manage it in the commissioner's office. Either way.
It's it's not specifically tied to Medicaid.
It's not.
It's specifically used for non-Medicaid.
So what is the Medicaid connection then?
The billing information, it's the information that goes to the state and how they are able to receive the information, the data.
Correct.
So no matter who picks it up here, we'll need to have the reporting capability.
As an example, right now, some of the funding goes through Pierce County Alliance, which is the drug court provider, so they report all the treatment activities. But if you contracted with, so as an example, alternatives, they are not a Medicaid entity, so something would have to be figured out how to get that data.
Okay.
It also is, it has to be tied to folks who are charged by the prosecutors, so there is a legal component to this.
Criminal
it's not
justice
just for
connection.
Anybody. It has to be for folks that are charged.
Some of the things that can be used for, you have it tied to drug court, but it can be tied to, say, increasing drug and alcohol treatment services in the jail.
I'll go to Hutch first.
We're talking about just under $240,000, just over $239,000, and I like the fact it's government or taxpayers' dollars, and even though the BHO is a quasi-governmental, I'm very much in favor of its county money and this dispersing funding as an accountability piece than its separate entity. But as for the decision on splitting how much goes to drug court and how much is going to the Office of Public Defense, I'd like to have more conversation around that.
So I believe
Not
that
the second, but go ahead.
I believe that the law continues to require, and please correct me, but there is a requirement in law that you convene a very specific group who makes a recommendation on how the funding is spent.
It's a CJTA panel. It's on the one-pager I handed out. County alcohol. Right, that continues.
Right.
The county authority ultimately has the final approval of that plan.
Right. So, but there would continue to be a panel that convenes annually to make a recommendation to the board.
Correct.
The nexus with the TST is the TST Executive Committee is pretty much the same group.
So that would come to the board then as a recommendation, not from TST, but from...
It would be, they'd be convened as the CJTA panel.
Okay, what's currently the split? Between, I'm not sure you have
So I believe that public defense receives, $1,500? It's a very small amount, and the rest of it goes to drug court.
And that was
it's the prosecuting attorney that pulls the trigger and decides who's applicable, who's going to play in drug court and such.
There's a whole negotiation that goes on about who gets into drug court, but
I'd like to learn more about that process, because I'd like to see more go to the public defense, just off the cuff.
All right.
But also regarding the administrator, whether it be TST or PHSS, that I think that needs further discussion.
But also added within that $239,000, there is I believe it's $88,000 of that funding is specifically for Thurston County Drug Court. It's called drug court funds. It's just all tied together.
Right. So we could certainly put administration of these dollars. We could ask the court if they would administer it. We could ask the prosecutor if they would administer the money. Really, you could put it in any of the offices that have some nexus to it.
Okay.
Does it have to be administered by an elected?
No.
Not gonna be a director.
No, it could go into public health.
Public defense and have them administer.
You could, yes.
I don't think I'd leave it to the judges or the prosecutor. Again,
my initial recommendation is departments that report to the board.
Hey, Gary has a question.
And this has been an ongoing funding, has it always been 239,000? Or in the past, has it been 600, it's got back, or?
It did expand. This has been around since 2002, and initially it was part of county funding. It came through the county drug and alcohol program, but when the BHO split away, the state chose to put this with the BHOs. That, in my opinion, it never shouldn't have gone away from the county, but we didn't have a choice either way.
It followed us.
I mean, the funding is, the amount's been about the same?
About the same,
We
yeah.
did that for the last 3 years. It was exactly the same.
Okay.
All right, so why don't you, oh yeah, go, sure.
On the letter that we received, it speaks about, the April 23rd, where the commission would like to make a decision as to the county to take the lead on this. But it also speaks about this, provide any changes or updated plan by June 15. What is that plan?
So that's the CJTA panel plan, and that's the plan that Robin was alluding to that just says that the funding will be used for drug court and also have available $1,500 for evaluations for the Office of Thurston County Public Defense.
Essentially, the recommendation.
I think the recommendations is the plan.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's no decision on this today. So what's today? Tuesday, maybe Thursday? Friday, something like that?
I'll bring next Tuesday for your...
Something like that, yeah.
We're good?
We're good for the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here and waiting.
Yeah. All righty, let's see if we can knock some of these out. Let's see, Manzama. We're going to get through all this, so Manzama next. And then Thurston Climate right after that. So, or Thurston Climate and then Manzama, whatever you want to do. Come on out. Yep. I did Manzama because it involves Jennifer, and I just want to get two at once, so that's all. What's the issue?
I was going to draw the Manzama Meadows formulation.
Why don't we do Thurston Climate thing real quick and knock that out?
Yeah, you can probably address that while I do my...
Yeah, Thurston Climate Action Plan then. Which I was not happy about, but okay. Is this the same thing we talked about earlier? No. Okay, I need to make sure.
I like Allison's short, concise.
Oh, she knows.
So earlier today, you were talking
It's not
about
on, don't worry about it.
the interlocal agreement for a climate mitigation plan with the cities. But we had a briefing back on March 14th where we talked about the climate adaptation plan that has already been completed.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent you guys a memo on February 22nd. It looks like this with a list of recommendations from ways that we could, when we're updating the comprehensive plan, some of the recommendations that came out of the climate adaptation plan, how would we build them into our comprehensive plan update? And that's really like in the climate adaptation plan, we looked at, based on the projections we have right now, how might climate change begin to affect Thurston County's infrastructure and our citizens in the next 20 years over the comprehensive plan planning period. And things like if we have stronger precipitation events in the winters and we have more flooding, how is that going to affect our transportation network? Should we be rethinking how we design our stormwater facilities? If we have higher risks of wildfire, should we be doing a better job of educating people about how to, when they build their homes, they build them in a way that they're at lower risk for wildfire? So there were a list of recommendations that were in that memo that came to you in February about things, language we could add to the comprehensive plan that would bring those things into it.
Do we have that memo?
So it's back from
February 22nd. You can have my copy.
Well, so just to kind of reframe also, the mitigation that we talked about earlier is what we can do to slow the climate change down. That's we're going to get 5,000, talk about the rules of the road. Separate from that is adaptation, is recognizing that something's going to happen and what do we think about planning for the future. That's the forest fires, the floods, And so those two things are different, mitigation versus adaptation. And Allison's talking about us exploring things for the future in adaptation. There's no cash, $5,000, no stuff, that's not.
No, sure, I know that.
And so the decision that we're looking for is, do you think we should be thinking about this in the future? And should it be included in the contract?
Sure.
In that list that Mr. Edwards has in his hand. We could rescind that, you guys. So that's what this is, that's it. Should we think about the future?
Yep, and so when we did the briefing on the 14th, the options that were in there were you could say, yep, sounds good, add that language to the comprehensive plan, or if you have specific ones that you want to do or not do, that's the feedback we're looking for.
But it doesn't lock us into restrictions.
None of these are binding. It doesn't force us to do anything. It doesn't put us on the hook for anything. It's just as we plan over the next 20 years, are these things that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, sure.
Does this put us in compliance with something or out of compliance if we don't do something with something?
It's good to be ahead of the curve or on the curve.
It's not one of the specifically mandated things, although there's likelihood. I think Commerce is working on something right now that we'd be ahead of the curve, because I think in the next round of comp plan updates there's going to be a climate planning requirement. But what we did is we worked with Thurston Regional Planning Council on a grant, and the memo was our deliverable on the grant. So that's where we have completed our requirement already. But the idea really is that as we start seeing greater impacts to affecting our citizens potentially from climate change, just how do we be proactive about planning for that? And those are the things we'd want to put in the comprehensive plan.
So what Allison did essentially is a 2-for-1. We did this work anyway, now let's add it to our comp plan.
But it's not going to create more restrictions for citizens.
Well, anything that came out of it would still come before you as an individual item. Any specific changes. And all the comprehensive plan chapters are going to come before you later this year as we're doing that update. So you'll have another shot to see how they look when they're in the chapter.
Okay, I guess I'm good.
You guys are good?
Just a clarification, what the decision you may take today is just to provide direction to staff to incorporate those items as they go through an updated comprehensive plan.
Sure.
At this point, you're not committed to any of the actions.
That's later.
As Allison stated, they will come back and give you specifics.
And when will that take place?
Over years.
Next year, or 2 years.
Yeah, take 2 years.
Yeah.
You're going to get some nitnoid, picky detail stuff.
And are we obligated to do certain things, and if we don't?
Yeah. Go
So
ahead.
at that point, you have the option to say,
Yeah, but then we're out of compliance, in compliance.
No, it's not
eligible for
and that will be some of the elements the staff will bring to you, what is required to be in compliance, and some of the items that you may have latitude to say A or nay.
All right. It's just a large conversation right now.
Yeah.
We're not going to have anything.
Problem with it, I don't think. It's worth looking at.
Yeah, very good.
Excellent.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Great, thank you.
Manzama Meadows mitigation site, and it's 11:30. So you.
This is I walked you through last week of the Masala Meadows. And this related as to
Can you
how
see,
we
Jennifer?
regulate the structure, the Masala Meadows, and I also briefed Commissioner Hutchins because he was not part of that conversation. So just everyone
Oh, you remember
else
this?
walk you through what that means. So the Masala Meadows currently is about 140 acres, which under the mitigation approach will have 208 credits. In order for them to manage, the third party, to manage in perpetuity those credits or the whole site, they need to generate 2,678,000 or thereabouts, right? And that translates to, dividing this to 208 credits, is $12,875 per credit. And that's what you've been hearing over the last few months. Some of the briefing says, okay, how we can take advantage of the investment that the county made through the conservation futures. They would take advantage of this process. And the county contributed $1 million $178,374 conservation features for the purchase of that property, which that equates to 44%.
Were we the exclusive purchaser?
No, it was others.
Okay.
Okay, so that was 44%. So how we can take advantage of some of those credits, or perhaps the investment from the county's perspective? I took and I said, well, we should get a 44% discount from the $12,875, right? So if we apply the discounts, the county could pay $7,200 per credit. And we will reserve 50 credits on this side that will allow us to conduct our business for the next 10 years. And that will be any type of projects that we may have associated with impacts to the pocketbook.
Silicon Road.
Yep.
I'm just trying to grab an example.
Yep. One of them,
Okay.
that will be Silicon Road.
Okay.
I don't know how many credits that will require at this cost. It will be part of the normal cost that the public works will do to mitigate for any impacts, right?
Yeah. It's extortion price that goes along with the construction project.
I wouldn't use that word, but
I don't mind using that word.
That's okay. So the $7,200 per credit, at 50 credits that we reserve, that outfit can generate $360,000, right? So from the $2,678, they still have a gap of $2,318 they need to come up with. But also they have a reserve of 158 credits. So if we divide the delta by the 158 credits available, we have a $14,671 per credit. Those can be available to any citizen who would like to go ahead and do their work. Just think about, and there's other outfits, private outfits, they're selling credits for close to $75,000. So those credits will be gone in no time. And just think about the McLeans and the issues they had to go through. In their case, it was just one credit. They could have honestly go through this process and eliminate all the pain and suffering they went through for over 2 years. So this is what I presented to you. I believe there is a win-win approach as to how we can take advantage of the Mazama Meadows, learn how the credit process works, and learn how we can probably be more proactive as to when we get to the larger context of HC. As a result of this conversation, Robin Campbell had a little bit of a concern, and we briefly talked offline with Travis in terms of whether this is allowable since the conservation futures contributed to the initial purchase, and perhaps the law doesn't allow for this fund to benefit other funds. Okay? So that was the context of the conversation. Did I miss anything?
No, what the law says is that no fund shall benefit whatsoever from another. So I think that we're comfortable as long as we're not saying that we've created a benefit to other county funds. If we look at this as a government discount on these credits, I think we're fine.
And Travis was going to look into the details, and he has to provide the legal perspective of that.
The question is raised is whether or not the Accounting Act, which has fairly strict parameters in terms of how departments can or cannot exchange funds or appropriations. Not to get into the details, but my initial assessments along the same lines what Robin is mentioning, it's an opportunity for us to be sure that we're playing by the rules, but I'm not seeing a red flag at this point. Now, just keep in mind, anytime you're dealing with HCP and banks, the walls aren't padded, right? So these are things we go in cautiously and use as much, restraint as we can. But I think that based on the proposal and the current negotiation with CNLM, in the context of us entering into an easement in those negotiations, that there is a path forward.
Yes.
So the decision for you today is whether you agree with this approach and direct the staff to start moving forward, and the next steps that we need to do to get to this point.
What's your take?
I don't like it, but I'm willing to move forward.
I like it. There you go, 3 votes.
Thank you.
What's the next issue? Let's see. I think we need to, we got the climate action. Let's talk about the meeting from the mayors of Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater. And then we can knock out the other two easily.
Yeah. Is that a commissioner's item? Because I thought it was the joint meeting with the Port of-
Number four.
Oh, yeah, sorry. This is just to give you up to date that we're trying to organize a meeting with the mayors from the cities of Lacey, Olympia, and Tumwater. And it's related to the home funds in the letter that you received. A little bit more related to the CIP more than anything else. And in that letter, they requested to have a meeting with the chair of the board, Commissioner Blake, and we have been working on how we can probably structure that meeting. We had an initial meeting with Shelley Slaughter, Elizabeth Petridge, Commissioner Blake, and myself last week as to how we can approach the meeting. I believe we had a pretty good structure in terms of defining the objective of the meeting and start moving forward as to how the elected officials could be involved in the decision-making process as to how those funds could be utilized. However, we received a couple of requests, I believe, from the City of Olympia and the City of Tumwater. They would like to bring their representatives from their CIP to this meeting. And first reaction, and this is just my first reaction, if that is the case, the meeting will be not necessarily fruitful, and we may end up in not a good place, because some of the players on the CIP, as I know, can drive the conversation strictly related to the CIP, as opposed to having a conversation in terms of concentrating on the outcome, on the deliverables, and how we as a group, as a region, in taking the county leadership, how we can better utilize those funds to have a much better outcome and much better deliverables. So at this point, that's where we are as to how we can probably manage that meeting that's been set up. And I'd just like to bring you up to date of some of the steps we have taken to the board. Did I miss anything, Commissioner?
Yeah, we have a meeting tentatively scheduled for 11 April, but I don't think that's going to stick.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to reschedule just to make sure that we understand what the rules of engagement of that meeting is. Because if we're going to have a room of 20 people, it may not be effective.
Nope.
This is an open public meeting?
No, because it's only the chair of the board who will be attending.
Okay.
And there's not a quorum in any of those.
Good, and I'm not in favor of any CIP attending. I want to see this move forward.
How about you, Commissioner? So that will give us an indication as to how maybe prepare an email for you to send to the mayors.
Yeah, sure.
The structuring that, a follow-up with Aaron on that.
Two-liner, nothing more than
No,
anything.
simple.
Yeah. Two-liner.
Also, I have organized with Ed, y'all again, the executive director of Port of Olympia, to have a joint meeting on April the 12th.
Yeah, they're excited about this.
Between the commission and the Port of Olympia commissioners, and that is starts at 4:30 at the Anthony's home port, and it's going to be the first hour. At 4:30 is going to be somewhat of a business meeting, and at 5:30 is going to be dinner, that is going to be hosted by the port, and where you just have the opportunity to socialize a little bit less trending environment. And some of the items that he proposed at that, to discuss is the agricultural plan site down in Tenino. As you know, the legislature approved $600,000 for this particular project, and the port is providing about $75,000 for this effort as well. And they would like to bring you up to date on that. That's probably some of the suggested items they will like to bring as part of the conversation.
Did the coal mine kick anything in there? The coal mine, did it kick anything in there?
I don't know that yet.
Romero, what's that project, real quick?
That is the, I can't remember the name of it.
It's an
agriculture business center, yeah.
Okay, business. Got it. Okay,
So the question for you is, what item you would like to discuss in order to give them a presentation to the Port of Olympia commissioners? So that is the proposed item from their perspective, and what item you would like to bring that.
What do you want to talk about the port with?
I don't know, that funding mechanism you've come up with here might be applicable to something that they want to do.
Maybe I can use in terms of maybe giving a broader update of the HCP where we are.
That's where we need to go.
Some of the letters that we have exchanged with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and then
The concept letter.
and then I'll address this concept as to how we're going to start getting into the credit management. Will that work?
But that's just for the duration of that 100 acres or whatever it is. Yeah. So.
And I'd like to know what their plans are for the port of Olympia, the airport in particular, again, expansion and/or the use of their buildings and what they're doing down there with the private sector. Whatever they can discuss.
Okay. Yeah, I'll bring that up. We try to manage maybe a one item per jurisdiction, not too much into the conversation, but I will add it. And I will ask Ed to give maybe a brief update on that.
Yeah, that takes a minute.
The next item also is going to be very brief. Is the Bring Your Child to Work Day is on May 17th, and they would like to have a commissioner participate on the event who will volunteer. I think last year Commissioner Edwards participated on that.
What does the level of participation look like, or what is it? What's the expectation?
The level of participation is for you to be available, just to give a little speech to the kids during that day. It doesn't require a full day. It was just a special point of time, and during that day that you can probably be part of it.
Yeah, why wouldn't I? Nobody else would. I'd be happy to do that.
Do it then.
That's Eagles Golf Course.
Yeah.
I might mention that.
So that's what I asked the question.
What's going on the... What are you guys looking at me about?
No, SSMCP is that morning.
That's
that breakfast.
That's the breakfast that you go with and interact with all the elected officials?
From 7:30 to 10. And what time does it kick off? Like 8, 9?
Just
I
about.
think it was about 7. It was about 8 or 8:30 last year.
It's not much of a commitment.
No. And it's fun, it's important.
Yeah.
I'll wait for the nods.
Do it. If you can't do it, I'll do it.
Okay.
So Commissioner Hutchins, thank you.
You can go to SSM. Your mic on?
Okay, what's next? Let's see. Did the Bring Your Child at the
That's all I have. The only thing left on that agenda is the Advisory Boards and Commissions.
PIO? We'll go back to the PIO real quick. What you got, PIO?
So we're doing a lot of work right now, obviously, with the Courthouse and Civic Center project. We're meeting on Wednesday to finalize the talking points in the communications plan. We're also going to start talking about and asking for guidance on developing a citizens advisory group type thing. That'll be talked about more. Hopefully we'll get a good representation of the citizens. So that'll be talked about a little bit more at the meeting on Wednesday. Working with Aaron and Commissioner Blake on his filming that's set to happen next Wednesday. We're talking about the nurse-family partnership as well as supporting mothers and families in the workplace. Thurston County Connection Best of 2017 show was selected as a finalist for the Best Informative Features at the Best of Northwest Regional Media Awards competition held by the Alliance for Community Media Northwest.
Oh my God.
So it might get an award. We'll find out at the end of April if we get an award for that. I'm drafting Commissioner Blake's Plain Talk newsletter set to go out in April. Some good topics on that one. And then I'm also out of the office this Thursday and Friday, so if you need anything before then, please let me know. That's all.
So I have a graph here that I'll pass out on over pretty quickly. So we talked about social media growth, comparing it to other counties. This is just Facebook, and I'll have other ones for you in the coming weeks. But the bottom line up front is we sit right around 1.2% of our overall population. If you compare that to other counties, it's pretty comparable to where they're at. Kitsap, who has the most comparable population of us, is about 1.5%. And our goal in December is to be at 1.8, and that's about 5,000 likes. Between January and April, we expanded our followership by 193.
Yay!
3,057 to 3,250. Some of the things we're doing to increase that followership, we launched a Thurston 2040 photo contest in conjunction with the comprehensive plan update. That's going on now. It started on April 2nd. We got our first photo submission, and I'm hoping to get some more here pretty soon. So it's a weekly competition, consists of 11 teams, and whoever wins, based on how many likes and shares that gets, it gets featured in the comprehensive plan. We also started a new thing called Thurston County Update. It's a short news spot about things that are going on in the county. We used the open house for the comprehensive plan as a pilot for it, and that performed pretty well. So we'll keep that going and find different things to talk about. It's about a 5-minute segment. We're also working on a County Up Close newsletter that I hope to get out in April. I'm finalizing it now, and I'll push through the review process. And that's gonna be a digital publication. We're creating a county news webpage where that will be hosted at, along with like feature stories and other videos and information, along with our OpenGov stories will also be embedded there. So it's a way for the public to access all the different outreach tools we have. And then update on radio PSAs. We talked about this a few weeks ago at a planning conference. I spoke with Roxy. They said they're more than willing to run what we send them. Just send them our news releases as we normally would, and they'll put it on as who, what, where, and why, as long as it has like a community focus to it. Haven't been able to get any updates from any of the other radio stations, but that's the one we do have right now. And then public health is also looking at doing some things with radio as well. So we talked about working with doing flu updates and things like that. And I think they're going to look at maybe applying a budget to that because they want to get it on bigger radio stations, and to do that is probably going to cost. And then last week we did Meet the Directors TCM taping. This was an opportunity for the public to meet the directors, learn about what their departments do, and some of the short and long-term opportunities that they have. We're hoping to air that April 10th, waiting to get the final cut of it, and then I'll review it, push through the review process, and get it out. And in the same breath of that, on April 30th, we're going to be doing an open house and panel discussion with the directors. That gives an opportunity for the public to come and meet the directors face-to-face, and if they have any specific questions, they can ask them, be embedded with the directors. And then today, I will be sending out the Thurston Insider, which is our internal newsletter. Any questions?
Do we know if we've got a radio station that's kind of the Thurston County community radio station? I mean, is there one listened to more than somebody else? I don't know, AM, FM?
Cairo has the largest following in the region, all the way from Seattle all the way down here. I don't know what the specific numbers are of viewership here, but that's the big dog in town.
Do we have a local little community radio that would kind of be more interested in what's local going on here?
That would be Roxy.
Oh, okay, so that's the one you are working with.
Yes.
I mean, you used to have KGY. I guess we don't have that anymore, right?
KGY's still around, so is Mix, and so is Chaos.
KGY is around yet?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just Bosley's not there. That's the only thing.
Or Dick Boost or something.
Like if there's county radio station.
Roxy seems to be the most interested in this stuff. We don't have that at this point.
They engage with quite a bit, and they're pretty open, so having a discussion with.
Are they kind of trying to develop that role, if you will?
Well, I started the conversation, but I mean, they follow us, and they've been putting stuff out on their community bulletin boards and things like that, so they're already doing some things.
How far and wide do they reach? Like all the way to Shelton, or?
So they're based in Olympia, and yeah, they'll
Rochester?
probably go all the way out to Mason County, Thurston County, and Lewis County. They may reach a little bit farther than that.
I think it's rather telling. We have Olympia-based radio stations, and Roxy's the only one that said, yeah, we'll work with you.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I do want to give kudos to Brian for doing the Women's History Month and profiling. That got a lot of engagement. People really, really liked that, so that was a great idea.
That was top profile of the wall. But very good. Okay. Thank you, Brian.
All right, anything else? We don't need to do a legislative update, do we?
No, we don't have anything, just advisory boards and commissions. One item that I would like for you to consider is, it was a request by the Board of Equalization, that you reviewed that request.
I have some concerns about that.
So, and I'd just like to bring this up to see if you have any additional questions, concerns.
Yep.
And if you'd like to hold off, that's also an option.
Yeah. I think we've kind of decided we're going to do the Paul Thompson.
Yeah, we got that one.
Got that one, right? And the others, I have some concerns. I don't know how much we want to get into the weeds on that at this point in time, but I'd just soon that we'd just hold off until we can talk about it then. Okay? Okay.
Respond to Katie. Anything else?
No. Nope.
One last item on today's agenda on the National Service Recognition. Chris Wells, the Executive Director for United Way, is going to be coming and receiving that proclamation.
Oh, good.
Today.
Yay, Chris. All righty. I think that about does it then. Any commissioner items? Anything? You got like 6 minutes.
You got 6 minutes to go.
Just give me one tiny little thing.
I brought mine too. I brought it just this morning.
Do you know where we're at on this? Ivan, Jan, Trevton down in Rochester. Something about, he presented some things, you know, he came in and talked, and something about the 15,000 square foot exemption. Something was added to the code. Are you even familiar with what I'm talking about?
There was a couple of items that he highlighted to you.
Yeah.
One was he was asking the board to go through a study as to how many properties may be affected by environmental regulation, and because he was making the argument of condemnation, right? And at that point, it's a very difficult process to go through. I don't think he was expecting anything on that, of a larger context. And also on the other testimony he provided to you, he provided his story, his son's story, by going through the HCP on the property he's on. He still doesn't get any information from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and he encouraged you to go ahead and approve an HCP, because that is how those are the two items that I believe for the most part, he highlighted.
Do you have a commissioner item?
I do not.
If Robin could explain our taxes in 4 minutes or
I
something.
don't think I can do it in 4 minutes.
Okay. No, I brought 3 years worth in to at least have
I
a
found
discussion.
5.
Oh, did
Yeah,
you?
I did.
Oh, okay. So, but I don't, right now isn't the time to do it, so.
All righty. You got through it all, believe it or not, even with the takedown or whatever you call it.
Lockdown.
Lockdown.